Have you ever imagined yourself as an explorer, standing on the deck of a ship off the coast of Colombia, preparing to dive into the deep ocean in search of a lost treasure? For more than 3 centuries, I still vividly remember that moment. The light of dawn reflecting on the water, the waves hitting the hull, and an old Spanish map displayed in front of me. A red mark indicated the location of St. Joseph, a Spanish galleon loaded with gold, silver, and treasures sunk in 1700, the attacked by the Mexican Navy against Cartagena. My heart was beating hard. Salty air, the waves rolling, and the cold of good morning reminded me that every step of this immersion had to be accurate, lie-checked. Diving tanks, resistant flashlight to pressure lists, and perfectly functioning sonar equipment. Everything was ready, but the emotion, entering an untouched world for centuries, was palpable. As we descended, a disturbing silence enveloped us. Blue, cloudy water. Green allowed that the aces of our flashlights will penetrate only at close range. The slen that rotated and particles suspended like small diamonds in the arena. Silence was so deep that I could hear beats of my heart and my breathing resonating through the regulator. Every movement had to be deliberate, each embrace calculated. An error could disturb centuries of history and treasures that no human being had touched in hundreds of years. We moved slowly, our fins barely agitated the water. The flashlights swept away, a partially intact remnant of the wreck, with twisted beams, broken masts, and scattered fragments of metal and wood. Small particles of sand floated on the ace of light, shining like stars suspended in the ocean. Each fragment, wooden, the corroded metal, looked like whispering the story of St. Joseph's last journey, when the precious treasures of Spain were swallowed by the sea. As we approached, Broke opened up to a larger orbit. The hollow holes between collapsed beams formed narrow corridors we had to bend down with care. The flashlight, scanning uneven ground and scattered debris. The voltage was electrical. A single misstep could destroy the treasure preserved under centuries of sediments. The first flash of treasure appeared, a gold bracelet, half buried and worn out with small emeralds and rubies. I extended my hand and gently removed centuries of slime. The metal felt solid and cold, iron corroded by salt water, but the craftsmanship remained remarkable. They reflected the intricate watermarks, representing the skill and patience of Spanish craftsmen. I slowly rotated the bracelet, examining each curve, every little imperfection left by the centuries, a silent witness to history. Nearby, I discovered a small wooden chest, partially buried under sand and fallen beams. The surface was covered with barnacles and coral, carefully withdrawn growth to reveal the dark, aged wood underneath. When opening the lid, the ace of light illuminated the contents: rings set with precious stones, printed gold coins with royal seals, and magnificent carved brooches, all floating on faded canvas. The ace of light danced on the treasure, reflecting like fireflies in the underwater gloom. I lifted each object, carefully turning it to inspect each seal, each mark left by time. Spiral, floral, and Greek key patterns were still visible despite centuries underwater, a testimony to the exceptional craftsmanship of the ancient Spanish goldsmiths. Each piece was more than a jewel, was a silent narrator, registering wealth, power, and art in precious metal. By supporting it, I felt a deep connection with the hands that created it hundreds of years ago. As we continued to explore, the dimness of the treasure was overwhelming. Piles of gold coins, silver chalices, and ornamental relics lay scattered throughout the tomb. The coral and barnacles had formed characteristic patterns about objects, intertwined with human craftsmanship. Every movement required care. Every action was measured so that centuries of history would not be disturbed. In the middle section of the ship, I discovered a gold medal worn out with foss, showing the profile of a Spanish monarch, intact despite the centuries under the water. It was covered with marine deposits. I lifted it carefully. Continues that the will highlight the yellow details. Every line of the monarch's face, every curve of the crown spoke of authority, centennial power, and prestige. I slowly rotated it, appreciating so much as the history contained in this small object. I later discovered part of a royal chest trapped under collapsed beams. With effort, we removed sand and debris, revealing gold coins, crosses worn with precious stones, and ceremonial chains. Each coin reflected the flashlight, dazzling in the dim light, carrying with it centuries of history, transatlantic travel, naval battles, and the wealth of the Spanish crown. In the center of the darkness, on a small chest, an emid gold crown. Despite centuries underwater, its form remained, the gems intact, shining subduedly under our shoulders of aces. I placed my hands on her and then gently lifted her up, revealing delicate filigree and rubies, emeralds and sapphires encrusted. I slowly rotated it, examining each line, every little crack, every time marker. The crown was more than a jewel, was a symbol of authority, power, and ceremony, preserved under the waves along the wreck. The interaction of light and shadow, floating sand, and the hue of gold and gems, a scene of supernatural beauty and deep mystery. Each coin, an eminent artifact, this jewelry was a reminder of human ambition, skill, and the passage of time. We moved with caution, photographing, documenting, and admiring, knowing that even a small error could destroy centuries of preserved history. At the stern, partially hidden under fallen beams, we discovered skeletal remains of a sailor, accompanied by a sack of coins and fragments of a leather-bound journal. The juxtaposition of human remains with the incredible treasure highlighted the fragility of life in face of the enduring legacy of human craftsmanship. It was a solemn reminder that history is both material and human. Each artifact linked to the lives of those who lived, worked, and perished. Exploring more, several compartments revealed gold, silver, and ceremonial objects. Each piece told its own story of wealth, power, and Spanish naval ambition. Each coin, chain, ring, and crown was a silent witness to history, waiting to be picked up by careful hands. When we finally emerged to the surface, with almost empty tanks and the sun setting over the water, we were exhausted, but the treasure, the history, and the story preserved under centuries of oceanic currents had revealed themselves in astonishing detail. We returned not only with recovered artifacts, but also with a deep connection to the past, witnessing the skill, ambition, and the stories of those who came before us. It was not simply a treasure hunt, it was an immersion in history itself. Every coin raised, every jewel cleaned from the slime, every rotation under the flashlight connected us with sailors, craftsmen, and explorers of centuries past. The ocean preserved its legacy, and in silent emid whispered through gold, precious stones, and ancient wood. As we sailed back to port, the sunlight shone on the recovered treasures, reminding me that a treasure is never just wealth. It's cultural history and human creativity preserved over centuries. The treasure lost at sea had finally been found, and more importantly, the story it had with it had resurfaced, connecting the present with a rich and tumultuous past beneath the waves.